result in information being lost while our teammates refuse to talk. But instead of just looking to see where the enemy is, you should also be taking into consideration where your teammates are. This is equally as important. Analyzing your team setup as the round develops will clue you into where the enemy could be and where the gaps are in your setup. When I watch demos in low elo, I constantly see players caught off guard from someone who found the gap and exploited the opening that they discovered. Simply just being aware of what's happening on the map could be the difference in winning and losing some rounds. More times than not, when you die, it's due to a mistake that you made. Of course, there are going to be exceptions for this, but for the most part, this holds true in all cases. The most important thing to do after death, once you're done passing off information to your teammates, is to start analyzing why you died. When I started my climb to level 10, and even to this day, every time I die during a match, I pause and reflect on my mistakes. Doing this will ensure that whatever lesson there is to grab from this will result in enforcing that pattern recognition process to happen. I cannot stress enough how important this is. If you find yourself finding excuses for your deaths, whether that be blaming your teammates, CS2 as a game, or anything outside of your own actions, it's important to recognize this and start accepting accountability for your own performance. Failure to do so will result in a limited improvement process and your inability to recognize the patterns that you discovered in-game. Another thing I want to add is that there's going to be situations where you die and the person that is actually responsible for your death or a round loss will be someone else. But just because this is true doesn't mean that there isn't anything to learn from it. Whatever that can be possibly gathered from any situation is beneficial for your learning process. However, sometimes it isn't always clear why you died or what you could have done better. But this is exactly where watching demos comes into play. When you watch your own demos, it can make things abundantly clear to how or why you died, and what you could have done better. Sometimes all it takes is to watch the scenario play out from the enemy's perspective. This is also where having a coach really comes in handy. Not everyone can afford a coach, and I completely understand that, but if you can, I strongly recommend it. If you're looking for a good coach, I recommend reaching out to Polo or Kojimo. I've worked with both of these guys and have had nothing but outstanding experiences with the both of them. Both of their contacts can be found in the description. Also, while we're on the topic of watching demos, I strongly advise that you check out pro player VODs and see how they're playing. Every time I watch a pro player, I'm able to learn something from it and apply it to my own games. A great resource for this is LIMCSPOV. Link to that channel will be in the description. Everyone knows that economy management is important in CS. But what is equally as important that a lot of players don't consider is the economy of the enemy team. It should not come as a complete mystery what the other team is working with as far as money goes. But of course, there is no real way of knowing with any level of certainty whether a team will force or save in most circumstances. But it should not come as a complete surprise when the teams rush your site with Tech 9s in a flash. Having a general understanding of the enemy team's economy will lead to you being better prepared for the upcoming round. A good tool to start understanding where the enemy team stands with money is open the scoreboard and hover over the loss bonus. Depending on how many rounds a team loses in a row will increase their loss bonus. A general rule of thumb is the larger the loss bonus, the higher probability the enemy team will force buy or have a full buy rather than an eco. But again, I strongly suggest doing more research on this to better understand the mechanics of economy in CS. This concept is also heavily influenced by elo, region, and enemy playstyle. Based on the behavior and tendencies of the players that you're currently playing against, your decision should adapt over the course of a match. For example, on Ancient, if Ts are constantly fighting for B through ramp, it would be smart to shift the CT setup so 3 people start on B while someone spots mid and A. Of course, in a solo queue environment, this can be difficult to coordinate, especially with unwilling teammates. But you can situate yourself in a position for success if you know they're coming up ramp by maintaining control of cave for retake efforts, or simply fight ramp in preparation for the T push. Now this is just one example. This video would be hundreds of hours long if I were to continue to try to provide all the potential situations that can arise on every map. But this is why playing the game is so important. You'll end up seeing all of these situations over time and become better at responding to them. It's very important that you actually do make these adjustments in game to try to encounter these intentions from the enemy team. Figure out what does work, figure out what doesn't work. This will result in overall better understanding of the game and a higher level of game sense. Not everything is black and white in Counter-Strike. There won't always be a situation where X happens, so Y should be your response. The game is fluid and always changing. A prime example of this is player advantages. If your team has more players alive than the enemy team, your decision making should change, and vice versa. Generally speaking, if your team has more players alive, you should be more reluctant to take 1v1 fights to avoid giving the enemy team a chance of getting back into the round. On the flip side of this, if your team is at a player disadvantage, it's okay and honestly a good idea to try to take 1v1s to help bring your team back into the round. And while we're talking about this, during retake scenarios, it's important to consider spacing between you and your teammates. This is something that I've personally been working on myself. Based on when you swing an angle and where your teammate is in relation to you is important because to the maximum extent possible, you want to be tradable. Being in a tradable position is one of the most important concepts to master in order to prevent your team from finding themselves in a player disadvantage. The last concept I want to cover I honestly think is one of the most important ones. That is, finding a gap. What I mean by this is exploiting how the enemy team is set up, whether it be on T side or CT side. I don't mean taking the long flank from B apps to T spawn on Mirage, but rather finding a not so obvious opening that the enemy team is allowing you to take advantage of. Doing this properly takes a lot of practice, understanding standard defaults, the ability to absorb information being given to you, and overall excellent situational awareness. Basically, it's a culmination of everything we've already covered. A prime example of this is a play that actually happened to my team during ESEA playoffs last season. The guy who made this play is a player named Viz, who's on the active roster for Party Astronauts. As the round starts, we see Viz work outside with cross smokes up. He works his way through the smoke without a flash, which is honestly a risky play, but ultimately works out. Following this, we see Viz's team get stopped in ramp, leaving him in a 2v5. Luckily for him, the other remaining player on his team still has the bomb, so the round isn't completely lost. What we're about to see is something not a lot of players are capable of doing. He completely lets the opera go by him and then hears someone go up ladder. He ends up never seeing Wilson holding ramp, but I'm led to believe that if he did, he also probably would have let him live. Then this is where we lose the round. He comes up ladder, takes me out, then kills both of our A-side players, which lets his remaining teammate with bomb come out hut. Then he looks for the opera, which is 1 HP and also kills him. Then while he's reloading, he's peeking down hell, which honestly is the only misplay I can gather from this clip. Wilson ends up losing the round in a 1v1, which honestly I don't blame him for. He was left in a really terrible 2v1 situation where he had to retake the site with no information on the planter. Viz knew once his team went down that a play needed to happen, and he did just that. He found the gap, demonstrated incredible trigger discipline, gathered information on our team, and then almost flawlessly executed by nearly acing us in a 2v5 situation. The reason why I picked this play is because anyone can do this. It doesn't take insane mechanical skill to swing rounds in your favor. What I mean by this is mechanical skill can be the reason why you win a lot of rounds, but you can also win a lot of rounds by just being smarter than who you're playing against. After losing this round, we lost a lot of energy. This round led into an eco round which we also lost. And after forcing the game into overtime, we lost the game. But after the best of 3 was over, we won 2 maps, and because of this, we were promoted to ESEA main. At the start of the video, I mentioned that game sense is something that takes a long time to develop, and it isn't something that can be fixed overnight or with one YouTube video. Becoming a better player happens over the course of countless games, but I hope the things that I mentioned in the video can help you change the way you see the game and help you better develop game sense. Before I close out, I want to shout out all the Ride or Die YouTube members. I know I say it every time, but I seriously cannot thank you enough for the support. Also, we're really close to 10,000 subscribers, and because of which I'll be hosting a knife giveaway in the Discord as a thank you to anyone who's joined the community. So if you want to take part of it, be sure to subscribe and join the Ride or Die Discord. Anyway, that's all I got. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. Thanks for watching.
Counter-Strike can be a very intimidating game for new players, so much so that many download the game just to delete it. The more you play Counter-Strike and the higher elo you climb, the better players that you're going to play against. As you climb elo, you'll start to notice that common angles that work against lower elo players start to be cleared out more consistently, resulting in these angles becoming more difficult to play. The best way to counter this is to play what's called off angles. These angles are less commonly cleared, which will catch unsuspecting players off guard. This video will showcase 10 off angles that you can start on CT so you can get more kills and win more games. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to see more content similar to this in the future, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. But before we get started, a big thank you to today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a fully automated CS2 trading site. SkinsMonkey provides an instant way to get new skins. Along with that, they have a 24/7 live chat support, so if you run into any problems, they'll be right there to help you. If you're interested in finding a specific skin, you can use their search tool. Better yet, if you're not sure what skin you're looking for, you can The competitive map pool in CS consists of 7 different maps. I'll show you at least one angle for each one of these maps, starting with Nuke. The first angle was originally shown to me during a demo review with my coach Kojima. During this review, Wilson, CS, and him were analyzing one of our recent league matches. Kojima showed Wilson an angle towards lower to catch T's pushing secret.
Do you know this angle? The one where you play here? There's a really good off angle that pros play that is right here.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like it's like most popular off angle. Probably like every Nuke scrimmer match you play, someone's gonna be there at some point.
The angle between both lower vents just besides this electrical box will catch enemy T's pushing secret. The reason why this angle works so well is because T's will be fixated on clearing the vent angles and the stairs. Because of that, they're going to be discounting the chance for the CT to be holding this corner. An honorable mention that won't count towards the 10 angles is this angle in Big Garage. The reason why I don't want to count this towards our 10 angles is because this one requires a little more team coordination. You'll need your Heaven player to either spot the cross-down secret, or you'll need your Ramp player to go down secret to wait for the push. With that considered, this angle can be incredibly strong when T's want to skill Mini Garage or Wrap CT. This angle has netted me a lot of free kills, and I promise T's won't be expecting you to be here. If you ever find yourself B anchoring for your team, you can get situated in this
Fucking
position
dope.
on plat. Most T's when pushing B site will clear
Motherfucking
headshot
loser,
and sight
bro.
and will not be ready to see you here. Give this a try in
Wow.
your next game.
Nice, idiot.
Another angle you can play on Dust is if you have long control, you can stand on Cat here. In higher elos, this position is played very often, but I don't see this much in lower elos or even in my level 10 pugs. This angle is extremely strong because it does not commit you to the Cat fight, and if your long players decide they want to lose the fight, you can easily run back to site or commit deeper into Cat to help with retake efforts. Moving on to Inferno. A powerful angle you can play here on Banana is right behind sandbags. From this angle, you'll be catching T's that are eager to clear behind car and are worried that CTs may peek from B site. A popular pro player that's played this angle in official matches is Nico. This player has found great success with multi-fragging from this same location. Another honorable mention on Inferno is being boosted on lane balcony. There are two reasons why I don't want to consider this to be part of our top 10 spots. One is because, unless you're a movement player that has practiced self-boosting here, it requires a teammate to boost you, which can be hard to come by if you're playing in lower elo. Also, as you climb higher in the ranks, this angle is cleared out quite often and is victim to different kinds of spam and utility lineups. One of the strongest positions you can play in Ancient is B site. An angle that is often poorly cleared out, especially during late round scenarios, is the cubby behind default. I don't recommend playing this angle at the start of the round simply due to the fact that this spot is commonly mollied out or spammed, even in lower elos. But as the round progresses, you can situate yourself in this position to either not be seen by ramp push or not be seen by T's pushing from cave. I can't tell you how many times I've multi-fragged from the same spot and have turned 4v2s into 2v2s or better. Another important note about this position is that if you can, you should communicate with your team to either spot ramp or cave so you can position yourself accordingly to where the T's are looking to execute from. An honorable mention on this map would be playing from Cat on mid. The reason why I don't want to count this towards our 10 is similar to being boosted on Inferno. And even if you know the jump from mid to Cat, the T's will always beat you there on the timing and see you jumping. But if you throw instant smokes from spawn and have a teammate that's willing to boost you, you can hold this angle to prevent T's from pushing through elbow. This same position is also very strong mid round for both teams if you can isolate the fight from mid to donut. Now moving on to everyone's least favorite map, Mirage. It's hard to find angles that are unknown for most of the community due to the fact that this map is played so often in all levels of play. But with that said, an angle that has often caught me off guard and a spot that I find good success in is playing window from the left side. Very often when clearing mid, T's will run out, clear out con peak, right side window, then move their crosshair to lower mid or cat. Off this, we can expect to use this angle a few times a game in order to get free kills and unsuspecting T's. This position gets even stronger if you're opping mid window or playing here during pistol rounds. The biggest downfalls I can see from this position is the fact that T's will often throw a mid window smoke. But even if that's the case, playing from this side of the window is an angle that most players won't expect you to be playing from when the smoke fades. Along with this, I've seen several high elo players make this move quite often. Another angle we can play from on Mirage is empty on B site. For whatever reason, even in my level 10 pugs, people very rarely clear out empty as often as they should. I will also catch myself discounting this position as I clear out B apps and site. Again, this position becomes even stronger if you're holding here with an op. Another advantage of playing empty on B site is you'll rarely become victim of flashes that T's are throwing over apps. And due to the nature of empty, you can move freely around after you get your first kill and get creative to stop enemy T's from taking B. Moving on to Anubis, we have this position behind pillar on A. If you tug deep into this corner, T's cannot see you from A main. Playing here will catch T's off guard quite often and leave you in a good position to showcase trigger discipline and for a potential multi-frag.
6.
Like most positions on A, the biggest downfall here is if your team decides to die mid, you become exposed to T's running through camera. In the case where that happens, you'll be forced to either fight A main or to reposition. Every game is a little bit different, but the best position to move from here is to regress into A main. The reason for this is if T's decide to take A but fail to get control of A main, it puts them in a very uncomfortable post plant where they now have to hold for potential retakes from camera, beach, and main. Also, if you decide to not take A main but rather fall back into site, you'll be exposing yourself to several players pushing for mid, or a similarly uncomfortable position on site due to T's being able to come A main and camera. Another angle we can play is from mid. All we have to do is jump on this box. This angle puts us in a good position to destroy anyone scaling house. The biggest downfall to this spot is being exposed from doors. But a very common CT setup is to have two players mid. Your teammate can hold doors from mid, and anyone that swings your teammate will also likely fall into your crosshair. And if your teammate gets destroyed, we'll have a moment to reposition ourselves. An honorable mention for this map would be to boost behind B site. For obvious reasons, this one isn't included into the 10 angles due to the sacrifice one of your teammates has to make by boosting you. Along with this, it leaves a gap being exposed in E-box. A way your team can prevent E-box from being exposed is to pull one player from mid to help E-box. but in that scenario, mid is left far more vulnerable with only one player being there. Now for our last map, Vertigo. The first off angle I'd like to share is 52. If you're unfamiliar with this position on the map, it's right outside of yellow. Now running here at the start of a round obviously isn't a great idea simply due to the tees meeting there on a timing. But what works quite well and something that I've done a lot in my own games is smoke side haul myself, move to 52, and peek tees that are scaling ramp. The reason why this peek works so well is tees will be often occupied with clearing out top ramp, and many players will disregard the likelihood of you lurking through a smoke. Doing this more than once on CT side will likely result in either tees walking through the side hall smoke to catch your teammates off guard and gap, or tees waiting for you to swing out from the smoke bottom ramp. This angle is more of a lurk smoke, but I felt inclined to mention it because it can easily win you around when tees decide to take A. Our last off angle for the video will be quad on B site. In most level 10 lobbies, this angle will be often cleared out by mollies or HEs, but very rarely will tees clear this angle out in lower elos. This is especially true during pistol rounds and if there is more than one person playing site. This spot has generated many round wins on Vertigo for me and remains one of my all-time favorite positions to play. The important thing to remember when playing from this position is to remain patient. A guaranteed way to be impactful from this spot is to kill the planter and at least one T caught off guard. The biggest downfall to this position is that if you don't have at least one other B player spotting for you, it becomes quite dangerous for you to play because lurk players will often clear this angle out. Also, if your mid player dies, you become exposed to the mid push through either Guardian or CT. It's important to remember that once you've played an off angle during a match, you should expect the tees to begin to hard clearing that angle every time, or at the very least become more aware of the likelihood of you playing there again. It's smart to change up where you're playing from every round to keep the enemy guessing and prevent the tees from developing any level of predictability to your playstyle. It's also important to start to develop your own off angles and study what other players are doing. These are just 10 of my own angles that I like playing. Watch high elo streamers, pro players, and pro matches to see what you can implement in your own games. Also try to come up with some of your own plays. Keep in mind that the best off angles that you can play allow for multi-frag capability or make it extremely difficult for the enemy to trade you out. Before I end the video, I want to shout out all the Ride or Die members to include a Trade ICS, Tony, Link CS, Wishy, Sparta, Wilson CS2, Demi, Scarface, Covey, Monty, Uncle Drew, Lonely, Small Devin, Chill, and Vex. You guys are the biggest motivation for me to keep making videos. Thank you for this. This is where I was October 2023, and this is where I ended up by April of 2024. What I'm going to share with you are tips that I used in my own journey that helped me improve at the rate I did. For number one, we have coming to terms with losing. I'm not saying be okay with losing, but rather understand that it's a necessary part of the process for improving. If you fear losing too much, it'll be easy to develop queue anxiety, which will ultimately lead to you playing the game less. How I came to terms with losing is by simply analyzing my elo chart. Whenever there was a big dip in my elo, I was fully aware that it would always come back around and most times result in a new peak. The reason why is because I always understood that when I lose, there's something to learn and gain from it. Losing can be the most valuable thing you'll experience while you're climbing on the Faceit ladder.
There's no
Don't let a
lessons
poor
in
first
victory.
half dictate your
Only
second
defeat.
half. This same principle applies to even having a bad first few rounds. Other than economic implications, the past rounds you played have no influence on how you perform in the future. Rather than focusing on your placement on your team's scoreboard, focus on how you can generate round wins for your team and understand that even if you're having an off day, there are other ways to manufacture winning situations for you and your teammates. I made a YouTube short covering this topic, which is located on my channel if you're wanting more information on this topic. Don't play tilted. Any experienced Counter-Strike player will agree that this game is just as much mental as it is mechanical. Having a frustrated attitude clouds up your ability to make rational decisions, which ultimately leaves you making less than optimal choices in-game, resulting in a poor performance and likely a loss for you and your team. A strategy that I employed during my climb was taking frequent breaks. Even on those days where I played 15 plus matches a day, after any game that I experienced a somewhat high level of frustration, I would just take a break. Whether it be an hour-long break or just a 15-minute break, it's important to take your mind off the game and reset your mental. Doing this will make it so you're ready to go back into your next game and win with a clear mind. There are almost an infinite amount of aim guides on YouTube from other content creators which give you insight you need to develop your own aim routine. I made one a few weeks ago where I talked about what I did to improve my aim. If you want to check that video out, I left the link in the description. But what matters more than having a great training routine is remaining consistent with it. If you don't train often or you only train once a week or less, you'll likely never see any significant improvements. I recommend developing a training plan that's realistic to your schedule, and even if you don't have time for Faceit games, at least have time to train. Learning lineups is something that most players choose to ignore. I'm not talking about learning how to smoke mid-window on Mirage, I'm talking about knowing lineups on maps that are not played as often. You should know site smokes for every site on each competitive map.
Yeah,
This tip is
I keep
especially
getting
true
bad
at lower levels
teammates.
of Faceit, where you can expect
There's
no
been a
one on your
couple
team,
good
or the enemy team
teammates.
for that matter, to hardly know any lineups.
like we should have won
The best
last
way to go
game.
about
We should have won by a couple rounds, but my teammates wanted to bicker and team kill each other. That I'll bet something. I'll put a stab out there. Do you want to put 40 in the pot? Come on. Yeah. Oh. You feeling frisky, bro? You feeling frisky, ROI rage? He's feeling fucking frisky. Let's go. Oh. Oh. That's GG. We'll take it. We'll take the win. Put that one in the book for us.
Find good ones on YouTube, practice them in a private match until you're confident you can hit it 100% of the time, then make a conscious effort to throw them in-game.
Before we get into our next tip, we have to give a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Skins
That's
Monkey.
just annoying,
Skins Monkey
dude.
is a fully
Whatever,
automated
fucking
CS2
call.
trading site. Skins Monkey provides an instant way to get new skins. Along with that, they have received
Stop with the Skin Monkey bullshit. I don't care. I never heard of Skin
There's
Monkey.
a clear difference in
Oh, get shit on.
using utility. Austin CS made a video about
Oh,
this,
I got
so
shit
check
on.
it out. Link to that will be in the description. What he mentioned in the video is that pros and high-elo players don't have to know lineups for every position that they're in. It would simply just be impossible
The
to memorize
blinds are
every
huge,
potential
right?
spot that
Yeah.
you could be in and have lineups for every potential spot that you could find yourself in. It's just not realistic. What these players do instead is master how these nades work. They understand the trajectory, whether they're moving when they throw it, they're underhanding it, left and right clicking it, you name it. They know how to use them. More importantly, they know how to use them on the fly as well.
That goes
What
a
I'm
piece
trying
of
to say is
shit.
there are a ton of benefits that come along from just practicing
Oh
using
my
nades in a
God,
offline
dude.
match. You could do that or take conscious notes on how you're throwing nades in game. There's a ton to learn in this department. If you want to learn more about it, I strongly suggest
Give me
you
a
take
hand.
look at Austin CS
That's a
video.
hand.
Another big tip is reviewing your win rates on each map. Identify which maps you're lacking on and try to do research to see how you can improve. Currently, the map I realize I'm deficient on is Mirage. So in order for me to improve, I've been running pre-fire maps on Mirage, watching high-elo streamers, and watching my own replays on the map. There's a ton of content online that can be used to help improve your skill on any map. If you're looking for more of an improve now kind of tip for this, if you have Faceit Premium, you can choose up to 2 maps that you do not want to queue. While I work on Mirage, I've chosen not to queue Inferno because it will be the next map I decide to put my attention on. Both of these maps are hosting my lowest win rates. I just mentioned pre-fire maps a second ago, and if you're unfamiliar with these, I strongly suggest you give them a look. Prac and Refrag both have pre-fire maps you can check out so you can develop better crosshair placement. While you're using these maps, I suggest you also clear angles that enemies could potentially be in. Even if the map you're playing doesn't have them there, it's important that you check them anyway because you never know where the enemy could be during a real match. This will also eliminate for the chance for you to develop bad habits as you grind these maps out. You need to practice counter strafing. If there was one single skill that helped me improve the most, it was improving my counter strafing. Even today while I do my warm-ups, I always focus on my movement and how I counter strafe. If you seem to be missing a lot of shots in game but are grinding aim labs every day, I challenge you to take a look at your demo and analyze your first bullet accuracy. I bet most of you watching this actually have quite good aim but fail to consistently and correctly counter strafe in your games. Something that's helped me a lot recently is working on my movement. I found that having better control of my player model results in me getting around the map
I don't care,
faster
Matrix.
and
I don't care
easier.
what you show me.
This results in me being in more optimal situations to help my team win rounds.
Turn that shit
Good ways to
off.
practice this is downloading the KZ Hub from the workshop, which I put in the description. What you could also do is jump into a map in practice mode and start practicing skill jumps on that map.
We're 90
There are
out of
also plenty of guides
105 in
online
this
that will
one.
help you learn these jumps so you can
We need to make some
pull them
big
off in
plays. We need to win some big pots.
What I did while I was getting to level 10 and still do to this day is watch pro players Faceit demos and high-elo streamers. A good place to watch this is LIMCS POV. There you can find replays of whatever pro player you want to watch. If you look, you can even see a full replay of the game I played with them. The real benefit from watching these guys is learning what utility they're throwing and see firsthand just how crafty they are at making plays. What I've done is try replicating
Give
the
us
things
a
I've
big
watched
one.
and seeing what works for me and what doesn't.
Oh,
Most everything
yeah.
I do in game while I make plays are things that I've watched much better players do first.
Jesus. Oh,
Speaking of
geez.
watching
Oh, it's only
demos, there are a ton of
4,000?
benefits
Give me
from
that.
watching your own. For Faceit, getting your demos done.
All right, give me a 10. Give me a fucking
All you
sweet
have to do is
10,
put it in
dude.
the match room
Oh, god damn it. He doesn't have shit, dude. He's got a
Extract that
fucking
file into Steam library,
jack or
Steam
something.
app,
Oh, he's got ace
Common,
high.
Counter-Strike Global
Oh, what a
Offensive,
pussy I am. I
Game,
should have
CS:GO.
bet.
Once you extracted it there, rename it to something that you can remember. Once it's extracted, open up CS, bring up the console and type play demo, and then the file name. Once you're there, you can start watching your
Okay,
replay.
whatever, dude.
If you're unsure on what to be looking for, start with where you're
I lost
dying.
with both of those
Analyze
hands.
common trends that you see, and whatever mistakes you're making the most, that's where you need to start improving.
Fucking ditch
An
this
interesting
hand.
thing you can do once you're in a demo is listen to voice comms. Open up the console and type TV_listen_voice_indices -1. This will allow you to hear your own communication in game and what the enemy is also saying. The reason why I mention this is for our next tip. For number 13, we have develop better communication skills. While you're listening to your comms in game, start analyzing how helpful it is. The key to having good in-game communication is be clear, concise, and informative. Let your teammates know that the enemy team has a timing to be somewhere. Remember, unless you're the last person alive, people on your team don't see what you see and they can't hear what you hear. Any information they can use is valuable. Being toxic to your teammates can lead to them performing even worse. So it's important that no matter how frustrated you get with your team, that you just keep it to yourself. Flaming your teammates will not make them play better. One thing that I learned from playing with Donk is that regardless of the circumstance, he is always maintaining a good attitude and is friendly to his team. So if the number one player in the world is like that, perhaps you should too.
Good damage.
Thank you. It's important to approach the game with a team-oriented mindset. Even if you're solo queue, you'll never win a game by yourself. Regardless of how difficult it may be, always try to coordinate plans with your team, and while you're playing, always try to position yourself so you're tradable or you can trade your teammate if they get killed. Most of my journey was solo queue, but during my journey, I did meet a few people that I played games with. Most of the people I met though were not through LFG pages, but rather in-game. If I ever got matched with someone I enjoyed playing with, I would always ask them if they wanted to queue. There's no better way to find good teammates than to play with one and ask them if they want to play. The worst thing that can happen is they just say no. But you'll be surprised, most people when you ask them if you want to queue will also want to play with other players that approach the game with the same mindset and want to win. Regardless of how many hours you played the game, or no matter how good you think you are, or how good you become, it's important
this section's for Polka Dot.
Improving stops when the ego begins. Realize that you're a student of the game, and no matter who you are, there is always something new to learn. Even though we must remain humble and be ready to learn, it's equally important to also be confident. This doesn't mean justify bad plays with an ego or swing ramp into 5 enemies every round, but rather trust your ability.
Don't fuck me.
If you really care about the game and if you've been practicing enough,
Don't fuck me.
You can win games. If you convince yourself that the enemy team is
Oh my God,
regardless
dude.
if they are or not, you will play poorly. The same goes if you convince yourself that you're better than who you're playing against. Those who say they can and those who say they cannot are both usually right. Be patient. Getting better at Counter-Strike doesn't happen overnight, but rather over a span of several months or even years of practice. The game is very difficult and there's a lot to learn. Give yourself time to improve and I promise results will come. Last but most certainly not least is to have fun. Counter-Strike is a game that should be enjoyed. Once you lose sight of that, getting better at the game will become impossible. This will also eventually lead to burnout. So if you feel as if you're playing too much, then take a break. Also, don't neglect your mental health. Don't put too much value in your current rank and treat every game as an opportunity to play your best and enjoy the game you spent so much time trying to get better at.
I have fucking 5 big blinds up.
Tips
Oh
for
God,
climbing
I was my
Before
turn
I
to
close
ship,
out the
you
video,
piece
I
of
wanna quickly
shit.
Shout out to all the Ride or Die members. A special thank you to Breezy, a trade IC. I started playing Counter-Strike September 27th of 2023. Since then, I've played in every rank on the Face It ladder. During my climb, I've learned a lot about what it takes to succeed at each level. Whether you're stuck in level 3 or just a few games away from level 10, I've got honest and meaningful advice that you can use to get to your Face It goal.
Oh, great.
Before we get started, a big thank you to today's
Give him a
sponsor,
jack.
Skins Monkey. Skins Monkey is a
Give him a
full-on
jack.
CS2 trading site. Skins Monkey provides an instant way to get new skins.
God damn it,
Along with that,
dude.
they have a 24/7 live chat support.
What a
So if
fucking
you run into
setup.
any problems, they'll be right there to help you. If you're
Goddamn setup. No, I don't want to fucking queue another one. I'm going big or I'm going home in this one. The fuck. All right. Yes, where are you? Big match. Gonna be a big match.